Hi everyone, it's Lindsay and welcome back to another video. Today I'm going to be sharing a fun project with you. Joy Claire Stamps is teaming up with Clear Scraps all this week. I'm going to show you how to do a little bit of stamping and stenciling on wood. Now Clear Scraps has these great little palette signs. I'm using a square one today. This is, I believe, the medium size. They come natural. I went ahead and gave mine a few coats of gray acrylic paint. Nothing fancy, just some cheap stuff from Michael's. And I use a foam brush to put that on. Now I'm going to start stamping on this, and I am using the Save by Grace stamp set from Joy Claire. This is a big 6x8 stamp set. To stamp on my sign, I am using the new Stays On Pigment inks. So these are a nice opaque ink. I've done a video about these. I will leave that linked down below in the description box. But while I'm stamping on this does have a backing on it to hold those three panels together. That makes it a little wobbly to stamp on. So what I like to do is put something underneath to help give it a little bit of leverage or give it that little bit of a boost it needs so it's not wobbling all over the place. You can see I did have to double stamp this one because I didn't have those panels underneath it at first. I'm just using canvas panels to hold that up and give it a little bit of balance on the right side while I'm stamping on it. Now using these pigment inks, they do dry fairly quickly because they are stays on. So I like to go in after I've immediately put the ink on my stamp and start stamping down. You don't want to let it sit too long on the wood. You want to go ahead and give it some good pressure, maybe 10 seconds if that, and then go ahead and pull up, and that's going to allow the ink to transfer best. Now I am masking these off as I go, and I am not using regular masking paper. I am using something that I found on Amazon. These are actually shipping labels. They're stickier than masking paper, and I happen to like these better. I'll leave a link to them down below in the description box. But once I've masked off my big flower, I'm going to go ahead and stamp two little ones on either side. Now for my third flower, I did stamp in between two panels. That just did not want to stamp for me. I stamped it about 3 times, and just because I couldn't get that good stamp on there, what I decided to do was finally take a Sharpie and fill in those spaces. So if you're stamping on a panel like this, don't start over. Just grab a Sharpie, grab a marker that is a similar color, and fill in where it's missing. That is going to save you so much time and headache and worry over your projects. These are handmade. They're not going to be 100% perfect, but to fix those errors, you can use Sharpies. Now, I'm going to go ahead and fill in all those little spaces with some leaves. For this, I'm using the Shamrock Green Stays On ink, and I'm just going to start filling in. I'm using the large and small leaf to fill in spaces. I just want to make this look like a nice bouquet in that top right-hand corner that I'm stamping in. The reason I am using the Stays On ink, now I'm using pigment ink, but there is the normal Stays On. That will work too for this. I just happen to like the pigment ink better. But the reason I'm using this is because wood has that grain to it. Any other kind of ink is going to bleed and run in that grain. So in order to avoid that, I like to use the Stays On inks. So it's going to stay put, give me that nice crisp image that I'm looking for. So once I had all the leaves stamped, I pulled out the masking paper, my favorite part, flipped the sign over, and I'm going to do the exact thing in the opposite corner of where I stamped. So I'm just doing 2 corners of stamping today to kind of fill in that sign and make it really fun in just 2 of those corners. I'm repeating the exact same process with the exact same stamps, and I'm reusing those masks. The best part is pulling off those masks, though. It is so much fun to see your little creation come to life when you pull those off, and I absolutely adore the way these turned out. Now it's time to go ahead and start stenciling. I wanted to cover up a little bit, kind of make it look like all one piece of my stamping with my stenciling. I just find that it looks best that way. I started off by using Stays On Pigment ink in the black color and just sponging that through. That was going to take me way too long. I didn't have the patience for it. So what I decided to do was take some heavy body acrylic paint. I like to use heavy body when I'm going through my stencils because it is thicker. It's not going to run on you as much. However, you can do this with the cheaper, thinner acrylic paint that you get at Michael's and those kind of stores, Hobby Lobby, that kind of thing. Just work in thin layers. Go in with one layer very thinly, then come back and do your next layer, and do that as many times as you need to. But don't go in with a heavy hand if you're going to use those thinner paints. Use thin layers, do more than one coat, and that's going to get you the same look. I just like the heavy body. I have it on hand though, so it's easy for me to say that I like to use it. Um, but I like to use a makeup sponge to put mine through. And again, I pounce it in the paint, then pounce off on my palette all that excess. So I am not working with a whole lot of paint on my sponge. You can see it's actually picking up paint from the stencil around the area, because I have such little amount of product on there. Now, whenever I'm done, I go ahead and pull straight up from my stenciling. I don't drag through any of that stenciling. I'm going to let it dry because I'm going to come underneath with the second part of my stencil. I love working with stencils this way and mixing it up. You don't have to use them exactly how they come on the stencil sheet. Mix up the spacing, mix up the layout a little bit, have some fun with them. That's what they're there for. So I put the dream on top, and then I'm going to put big underneath the dream actually, instead of doing it all one straight line. And that's what works for this sign. So you may have something in your stash that will work exactly like this, but maybe different words. Look at your stencils in new ways and figure out how you can realign them to fit your project best. Once I had those stenciled though, that is it to make this little sign. So much fun. It came together super quick. I think it only took about a half an hour to make this with painting and all. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Make sure you head over to the Joy Claire blog where the entire design team is teaming up with Clear Scraps this week. Thank you guys for watching and happy crafting.